got your mic on, Mary?
I do now.
When's that new Poundcake Frank Black collab coming?
No idea.
Hit him up. I play this version when I watch Fight Club.
Coming up there at the end.
Yeah. Just when you think that movie couldn't get any better, it improves it a little bit. Cavaliers are at home tonight before they hit the road for a bit. They're going to be playing the Boston Celtics tonight. It's that Kelsey Brothers bobblehead night, too. Cavs lost to the Knicks over the weekend, and the Celtics are the best team in the NBA. So we'll see what happens tonight. A win would be awesome.
Would be, but it's going to be a tough one because they have a lot of players out. The Cavs do.
Cavs do.
Yeah, Donovan Mitchell, I believe, is going to be out tonight. I think, who else is out? Max Strus, the hero.
So
from
not,
last week,
not
out.
the game that you want guys out.
Right.
Okay. Well, the Celtics are a very good team, boy. They got John Havlicek, and they got, I'm sorry? Paul Pierce?
No.
Rajon Rondo?
Uh-uh.
KG?
Nope.
Well, I'm at a loss. Who's the main guy on the Celtics?
Jason Tatum.
Jason with a Y, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
And
but
then you
Tatum
got-
with no Y.
Right. They got Christoph Porzingis.
Oh, yeah, Kristaps.
Kristaps, yeah.
Yeah, the NBA needs more Kristaps. I heard Jason Tatum, by the way, say that he is the best player in the entire National Basketball Association. Is that true?
I mean, it's debatable. He's definitely one of the top players, but I don't know if I'd put him all the way at the top.
All right. Well,
but, I mean, he's the best player on the best team, so
if you don't bet on yourself,
yeah,
you got to bet on yourself. That's what he's doing. That's what we're all doing, betting on ourselves.
Because, that older, like the LeBron era, I mean, LeBron's pretty much the only one left from his era of, like, his draft era. But even guys like KD, they're getting older.
Yeah.
Steph Curry's in his, 15th season.
Yep.
So,
And he started when he started when he was 30.
Giannis, I don't know, Jokic would probably be my pick. Just
my
the way
mom likes him.
Yeah, Jokic is real good. And then Giannis before I'd put those two over Tatum.
Okay. Well, don't tell him that.
Well, I can.
Because he will disagree vociferously with you.
He's allowed to.
Yeah. Okay. Today is Super Tuesday. And if you click around cable news, when they have their correspondents out talking to people at polling places for the presidential primaries, you're going to get some wild conversations with people. You know what Super Tuesday is, Poundcake? Do you pay attention to any of this?
It's political mumbo jumbo, as far as I'm concerned.
Political mumbo jumbo.
I mean, because they say they have these primaries in various states.
Which they do.
They do, but it doesn't make a difference in the actual election because, again, if we go back to 2016, Hillary was leading in all these. She was winning all these types of states and winning all these type of states. And then in the actual election, she didn't get the states that the primary said that she will win.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, it's more instructive for the candidates to kind of see,
It's a projection.
that the available delegates,
So I don't pay attention to it really.
When do you start to pay attention to it?
I kind of don't, but
So then it doesn't really, your whole explanation doesn't really matter then.
well, I did back then. I was really, really involved, but
Right.
not so much anymore because it doesn't make sense anymore. Back then, I was like, oh, if everything they say is correct, then this will be the result. And so they did all that. And it was wrong. So I'm like, why am I paying attention? Why am I like grinding my teeth over something that is just, the stats are in favor of this, and then it doesn't.
Right.
So I don't anymore. I don't obsess over it. If it's on, I'll watch it because I find it interesting. I like to see where the mind of the nation is, but I mean.
Well, I'll give you a little snapshot here. Nikki Haley is still trying to kind of be the spoiler for Donald Trump. She's not going to really make any headway against him, obviously. But she's just kind of trying to be a fly in the ointment. She won the D.C. primary, but that's no big shock. But this is what she's contending with. And anyone in her position would be contending with this, by the way. And I don't mean just because she's up against Trump. Because she's a girl.
Oh.
They were talking to a guy from North Carolina who's a big Trump guy. And he spews most of the, usual nonsense about how life was better with Trump and blah, blah, blah. And the guy asks him, well, what about Nikki Haley? And he kind of had to coax it out of the guy, but the guy eventually came correct.
What do you think of Nikki Haley? Did you ever consider her?
What I got to say, you don't really want to put it on.
Let me hear it.
Well, a woman's not going to be a good president. She don't have no balls to scratch. She's just going to scratch her head. All a woman's good for in my book is having babies and taking care of the house, but that's the old thing, but I'm old school.
So you never even considered her?
No.
Mainly because she's a woman?
Because she's female. I mean, females, don't take me wrong, females know what they're doing, but they still got to have a little bit of guidance. Trump would be the one to guide her through the
I can't believe there's still people out here that exist.
There are a lot of people like that.
Time.
Do you know how many countries around the world have elected female presidents before us? Like African nations, which are not exactly known, for their gender, have managed to, for decades and decades.
And
other countries have managed to elect female heads of state. Over here, we just can't seem to get our heads around.
Because they don't have their nuts to scratch, so they have to scratch their head. Wow.
But it's not just guys. There are a lot of women,
women
who feel that same way. They're like, they're like, MAGA chicks or whatever. But, they're like, well, she always looks like she's menopausal and blah, blah, blah.
So that's part of the bit that got me in trouble over the weekend is that I ask if anybody thinks we're ready for a female president. And, some people clap and some people don't. And doesn't matter where I'm at in the country, whenever someone says no, it's always women are too emotional. I would say 99% of the time.
And where does that come from?
What do you mean?
Well, people have always said that. Where do you think women are too emotional? When it's always the guys who are the emotional ones.
Well, that's part of the bit is that they're like, oh, should get a period and start a war. And I'm like, yeah, but every war we've ever been in has been started by a man. And periods are such a short amount of time. Men are the ones who are creating wars between countries and things. I don't know, man. It drives me nuts.
Yeah,
Also,
it's strange.
A lot of people that are afraid of a war being started actually rely very heavily on the military-industrial complex. So, what are you so upset about?
Well, but this guy, it's not like he's pretending to be something he's not either. You can't give him a hard time for that. He's like, well, he knows. He's like, you're not going to like what I have to say. And the guy's like, oh, come on. He's like, all right, well, I think this. That's what he thinks. And he ain't alone in that. This is not a 95-year-old guy. I can't tell how old the guy is. I was watching it. He looks like he's maybe late 50s, early 60s. And he's there in North Carolina. And there's a lot of people.
Yeah, but he's in North Carolina. He might be 37.
Yeah.
And look that rough.
Yeah. Yeah, but there's kind of a lot of white right-wing voters, boy. They have this weird combo of self-pity and self-hatred that obviously should be, treated with scorn because it's always a bad conscience hiding just underneath. But it is interesting. And again, it's not just guys, That to me in this country was always the rock that any female candidate had to push uphill. Is that a lot of guys don't like you and a lot of women hate women too.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's always so funny to me how many countries have elected female leaders. And we just still, in 2024, cannot get our heads around it.
And it's not like it's countries where it is more liberal or anything like that.
That's what I'm saying.
I was in the Philippines, and when I was in the Philippines, there was a female president there. And that is a very conservative country.
The first country to have a female president was Iceland. But I mean, if you go through the list of female heads of state, it goes way, way back to the 40s, right? Golda Meir in Israel, Isabel Perón in Argentina.
I feel like
Burundi, like African countries, where they still think you should, be able to murder gay people on the street or whatever.
Well, a lot of them have matriarch, like they see women for how strong they are for basic anatomical things like having babies.
I think they're
Yeah, but that's no different here. I mean,
Yes,
American
it is.
American women have the babies.
But they don't get any respect for it. So like that guy said, that's your job. That's all you're good for.
Right.
Not this is a beautiful miracle. Holy crap, your body can endure such,
You could bring life into another.
Well,
human
but that's
being.
all that anti-IVF stuff, too. It's never been about protecting kids. It's about punishing women. But that's not indicative, or we haven't cornered the market on that. I mean, it certainly looks like we have. But all that IVF stuff is not at all. It's about it's about controlling what women do.
Yeah.
It's not about taking care of kids.
But they do a very good job of wrapping it in the religious, whether it's religious.
Yeah, but even
sentiment
that,
or
I
stuff
mean,
like
it
that,
would.
but it's still.
It would make
so-
sense to say, okay,
So no woman that is pro-life or anything like that is like, well, I'm pro-life because I want my body controlled by other people.
I feel
They don't even think of it that way because they do such a good job of tying it into religious stuff and.
yeah, but even religious
So-
stuff, I would think that if you say, well, but this would make more mothers. So what's the problem? That's not the point. They want you to be a mom in a very specific way,
yeah.
right? They don't
Right,
want.
well, that's what we see, but that's not what they're not looking at it through the same lens as us.
I feel like
Well, there's this thought that IVF is like for lesbians and single women, and like Christian right wingers. They don't like that. They don't like women who waited to have kids. They don't like women who are taking control of how and when they have kids. They're coming from communities and being raised in these communities where like, if you're 16, you didn't have a kid, you're an old maid. Like IVF is some kind of cheat code. It's why they get mad at Taylor Swift, right? Powerful young woman out there. So she's got to be a psyop. She should be a slave to the whims of her boyfriend. So there's this whole school of thought that women are only worth something if you make them pregnant. Not if they decide to do it. If you make them pregnant. And it doesn't matter who makes them pregnant. But if you make them pregnant, boy, that's the way it's supposed to go. And it's wild. But again, the not being able to get our heads around a female head of state is pretty wild.
we'll get there. We will get there, but
I guess.
I have a feeling-
Yeah, eventually, but what will it take?
Well, I feel like if we have a female head of state in this country, it's going to have to be a conservative because a liberal woman will never be able to get the votes.
But why?
He's probably right.
Because women, first of all, it has to be a woman that men can also concur with. So it's going to be a woman who's going to be, oh yeah, abortion rights or the right to life or pro-life. She's got to be able to captivate the conservative audience.
Yeah, but those are minority opinions.
But
is
coming
the
from a
point.
woman,
When they poll people on all
I don't
these
think that they are.
but
For
they
example-
are.
for
They
example-
are. Even conservative voters are like,
They're gonna-
I want abortion to be legal. I want IVF to be available. You know, rich people thought they were going to get away clean with that whole Dobbs decision. Rich people were like, well, the abortion thing won't affect me because I have the means, right? That was the big complaint, is it's going to make people of no means in a much worse situation. People who are rich have always been able to get abortions or whatever. Well, IVF ain't cheap. So rich people are getting sucked into this too because they're like, oh, I can't have IVF now either? So you can't just ignore all the other stuff because they're coming for all of it.
the conservatives will probably use whatever conservative woman as a proxy. They will say, oh, look, this is a woman who believes in what we believe, so let's elect her because she's a woman that we can tolerate. And that's literally how it will be.
It's the same when they put one black person on Fox News.
It's the same. It is.
know?
It's tokenism.
But how is that going to make her president?
Well, because I use the example of like Margaret Thatcher. I feel like Margaret Thatcher was conservative, more conservative than a lot of her coworkers, her colleagues, because she had to double down to make it seem like, oh, she can play game with the rest of the boys. So you have to like literally be the most conservative to make it seem like you're not when you get into the position, you can be trustworthy.
Well, that was a different time in a much smaller country,
yes, but
though, too.
We're far behind. Like, we haven't even gotten to the point where we would even consider having someone like that as president. But they already have. So they dealt with it, and they got rid of her. After her first, I know this from The Crown, after her first, election, she didn't get reelected. So they did away with her, but at least they had one. So we're not even there yet. So when we get there, it's going to be a conservative woman. It's going to be a conservative woman, and they're going to say, oh, look, she's pro-life. She doesn't want women to have rights. Like that. See, women, you need to get more like her. And then the women who...
You have a lot of people
don't have their own minds.
You have a lot of people who won't vote for that.
They want to elect a pick-me girl. That's what they want.
Yeah, and because...
Well, what?
Have you heard that term, a pick-me girl?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah,
like,
what
oh,
is
I'm just one of the boys. I don't really get along with other women. Like,
is it validation?
Yes, I have the mindset of a boy. I've always thought like a man. I just, I'm a real. I don't even really know how to describe it, but the term is
one of the boys.
Well, and that's why I said liberal people, they like to say, they like to feel like they have their own mind. They're not going to really rally behind someone like, oh, well, why should we rally behind her? What makes her so great? But with a conservative...
There are a lot of Democratic voters who would have less of a problem with Nikki Haley.
But look at Hillary Clinton. There was a big part of the Democratic Party that did not want her to be president.
Right.
But if Nikki Haley was the candidate, best believe the Republicans would get behind her. If she was seriously considered as candidate, they would fall in line. Republicans.
You mean then?
I'm saying now, like if
but
Trump,
they're not getting behind her now.
Because Trump is still the candidate. But
right.
if he gets another 4 years, if he gets elected, Nikki Haley, if she has the numbers, they'll rally behind her. They don't care that she's a woman. If they
rally behind her for what?
For president.
When?
If Trump is elected and he does his another 4 years, he can't be reelected.
No, he won't leave if he's reelected.
Okay, you're saying a lot of hypotheticals.
No, he's proven. Poundcake, you saw what happened the last time, right? If he is reelected, he won't leave. There won't be
anywhere.
He's not going anywhere. There's not going to be a Nikki Haley in 2028.
Okay.
He'll be in until he dies.
Well, I was giving my theory on if our democracy stands, if they have another Republican candidate, Trump eventually is going to die. So who's going to take his place? Another conservative.
So, yeah, but she's more of an old school. She's not even really old school. She's just not as insane as he is. And I guess for some people, that's enough.
They need someone, women who pretty much vote like their husband anyways, they will vote for her because that's what their husband is going to vote for.
Well, that's what I mean. I play the clip of that guy in North Carolina. There's a lot of women who feel that way, too.
Yeah.
Trad wife, the whole bit, right?
They just fall in line, I feel like, at a certain point.
It's pretty wild, though. I don't know why we can't figure it out.
I mean, we also
a lot of other places have figured it out.
80-year-old men running for president. And what other countries have leaders as old as ours?
Yeah, I don't know. It's all very interesting to me.
Well,
I don't know. There's no simple answer to it.
Old people vote thing, where it's like they see their peers with similar mindsets and views, and they're like, until younger generations are voting in the same numbers that old people are.
Yeah.
It's the same reason why you're at the grocery store now and you hear music and you're like, I can't believe they're playing this hip music. Or the halftime shows, and you're like, oh my God, how controversial. It's like, no, everyone who likes Usher is in their 40s.
Right. Well, older voters are more conservative, but not every older voter is a conservative either.
There are a lot of talking numbers.
Yeah, but there are a lot of older progressive voters. Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty wild. But that guy, he was like, look, this is what I think.
She got no nuts to scratch.
She doesn't have balls to scratch.
We'll see it in our lifetime, I think, in the next 20 years. No, I think so,
Biden's a
because-
staircase away from us having a woman president.
That's true.
Yeah.
A bike ride.
All right, I got to take a break here. If you want to go down to Columbus, they got that Titanic